One things that can trigger an outbreak are things like stress.
Yeah, stress, it can deplete the calcium in your body.
And then too much sun that we're talking about, because it pulls the calcium out of your tissues back into the bloodstream, depleting tissue calcium. And so we're going to explain why that's so detrimental to the body.
Yeah. And so if you notice your body becoming overly warm when you're out in the sun, you need to
throw back about 6 to 8 Cataplex F tablets.
Chew them up.
Chew them up would be even better.
Yeah.
You know, they don't taste like chocolate-covered peanuts, but they'll do a lot more for you than chocolate-covered peanuts. I was just asked the other day by someone new to us if I was the Forbidden Doctor. Of course, I said no. The Forbidden Doctor is not me at all.
We are not the Forbidden Doctor. Jack is not the Forbidden Doctor. It's in you.
The Forbidden Doctor is that magical, mystical power inside of you that is controlling and healing you.
It's that beautiful, marvelous, almost miraculous force that controls all healing.
It's that innate intelligence, that life force directed influence that triggered your DNA to guide the building of your body after conception.
Yeah, it's that power that sustains your life, repairs your wounds and lesions, and it never stops working. It's that essential part of you that keeps you alive and heals your every hurt.
This is the Forbidden Doctor. It's not me. It's that part of you the powers that be have decreed forbidden to ever learn about or even consider, and never ever rely upon. For it is forbidden that you even know this life force exists at all.
You are your own Forbidden Doctor.
Yes. Hey everybody, it's Dr. Jack.
And Mary.
And welcome back to the Forbidden Doctor podcast 171, Cold Sores, Heat Stroke, and Restless Legs.
Cold sores are horrible.
Oh, gosh.
Heat stroke can kill you, and restless and cramping legs can ruin your life. So we have a simple solution to all three. So listen, guys, this is easy. It's going to be a short podcast, so just keep listening. We'll get through this quickly and take these horrible problems and deadly problems out of your life.
Yes, and we're going to be talking about some forbidden information that is related to these conditions that arise when we start going back outdoors again.
It's
more
summer.
So in the summer than, in the spring and summer, than we would experience in the fall and winter.
Yeah.
But before we get to that, for our regular listeners, the next 4 minutes is our financial stuff, and you can fast forward through it if you choose. But for our new listeners, please listen at least one time so you understand how we do things around here. So before we begin this informative and forbidden podcast, we want to take a few minutes to talk about why we do not have sponsors.
Yeah, we've been approached many times to sell different products on our show.
But we've always been compelled to resist these financially tempting offers because many times they lead to an attempt for editorial control over what we say.
Yeah, and what we're doing here is too important to be controlled by corporate interests. So we never allow this kind of advertising on our show.
And so that said, we don't make money from these podcasts. All of our income comes from your interaction with us and what we have to offer, and from the sale of our Forbidden Doctor products and supplements from the oldest and original whole food supplement manufacturer in the United States, Standard Process.
Yeah.
But we're not paid by Standard Process. Indeed, they distance themselves from open internet promotion because of constant scrutiny from the FDA.
Yeah, and as a result, they do not advertise or pay for advertising outside of a licensed healthcare professional's office.
And the reason for this is really simple, because their products are very powerful and they actually work.
Yeah.
So they need to be careful about people making claims. Others have mentioned that while the knowledge we share can't be found anywhere else, it is often tied to Standard Process.
Yeah, and that also includes our own ageless thyroid and long life energy enzymes products.
Yes, and so you might ask, could not our own products be creating a conflict of interest? Mm-hmm. I mean, have we mistakenly created infomercials instead of free knowledge podcasts?
No, we do this on purpose.
Yes, because years of experience on the radio and in our clinics and almost 500,000 downloads of our podcasts have taught us a few things. And the most important is that the type of nutrient-dense foods that most of us need to get our bodies actually healing from years of malnutrition are not easily integrated into most of our lives.
Yeah, the quest for excellence in nutrition has never been an easy task. just face it. Nobody wants to eat raw liver, but absolutely no one will sign up to eat raw liver daily for 6 months. So we feel therapeutic supplementation is sometimes very critical in the healing process.
Yes, it is. So let us be clear. We talk about standard process because this is how you can get whole foods in a concentrated form that you would never, ever eat on a daily basis.
And the reason we do our podcast this way is because it has saved our lives and countless others that we've worked with over the years.
Yeah, so we sell supplements.
Yeah.
And so we try to give free knowledge away about how nutrition touches every aspect of our lives. And so necessarily these two are going to overlap. But the bottom line is, we may mention supplements that you can get from our website, but the knowledge we share is real, and you can take that with you forever, whether or not you ever buy anything from us.
But you can support us in keeping this podcast on the air with a donation at forbiddendoctor.com/donate.
Yes.
Or if you're ready to take your first steps for your own health, you can join our family by going to our website and taking our free symptom survey.
Now, we understand, we really do, that some of you may feel real hardship with even a modest purchase and cannot afford even a single month's supply of supplements. So please know then, it is completely okay if you do not buy our supplements or financially support our show in any way if you cannot afford to.
Yes. However, there are many ways to support us for free. You can give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. That's easy. Or a thumbs up on YouTube. Wherever you listen to our podcast, just give us a good rating.
Yeah, and if you already support the show, thank you. Truly, thank you. And please know that you are the very reason we fight this good fight. I mean, your support makes this all possible.
So now let's get back to the forbidden information they don't want you to know.
Oh, yeah.
Now, let's get on with this podcast.
Let's get on with it. What do cold sores, heat stroke, and restless legs have in common? Well, let's talk about cold sores. Cold sores first. They're simply an indication of a lack of tissue calcium reserves in your body.
And that would be what all three of these have in common.
Yes.
So we'll just answer it right off the bat.
Precisely. Now, you can go into convenience stores, gasoline station stores, grocery stores. Almost invariably this time of year at the checkout, you'll see a little tiny tube of cold sore relief or something like that.
Yeah. Well, we got something better. And
we got something a lot better.
How to even prevent them completely. But the root cause of a cold sore is an infection caused by the herpes simplex type 1 virus.
Oh, yes.
It's different than the other sexually transmitted herpes.
That's type 2.
Virus, yeah. So don't freak out if you get cold sores, because that's actually what it is the herpes virus. And without enough ionizable calcium in your tissues, the most antiviral substance known to man, calcium, you can easily have a cold sore breakout.
And we have done many podcasts in the past on calcium. We've talked about I think it was called the 1% solution or something like that, where 99% of the calcium in your body is locked up in the bones with phosphorus.
Is good.
That's where you want it.
It holds you up. It holds your organs in place, the skeletal bones.
1% of your calcium is in the form of calcium bicarbonate floating through the bloodstream.
Which is also very important.
Oh, you can't live without it.
Yeah.
You can't live without it. So it's in the bloodstream and it's in the tissues. And under normal operating conditions, you'll have a balance between the blood and the tissues.
Unless you do something really stupid, like take a tremendous amount of vitamin D, which they're recommending now.
Or out in the sun.
Well, that's not so stupid.
And it's the same thing that leads all three of these, the cold sores, heat stroke, and restless legs, is that when you go out into the sun, you're going to build up very heavy levels of vitamin D. You don't in the summertime. You do not have to be, and that's why you don't hear about people falling over from heat stroke, shoveling snow off their driveways.
They have heart attacks, though.
Yeah, because there's not a whole lot of sunshine.
They need calcium for
But
it.
in the summer, they could be working in the yard. They could be hiking in the mountains. They could be out on the lake in a boat, whatever, getting plenty of exposure to the sun, which is building up tremendous levels of vitamin D in the bloodstream. And vitamin D's number one job is
pulling calcium out of the gut into the bloodstream.
And where would that calcium get into the gut? Well, if you've been eating green leafy vegetables, if you've been drinking raw milk, not pasteurized milk,
you'll get some calcium
or calcium
from that.
Supplements, whatever,
or yogurt. There's ways to get calcium.
That's right, and that gets digested. It's in the gut, But interestingly enough, the gut will not pull the calcium out of the solution flowing through the intestines before it gets to drop zone 0 unless you have vitamin D in the body. And when vitamin D is in the bloodstream, for some reason unknown, calcium goes flying through the gut wall into the bloodstream and into the body.
But too much.
But too much of the vitamin D
keeps it away.
Calcium locks up in the bloodstream.
And can't get into the tissues. And by tissues, which I explained to Jack yesterday, I don't think people realize what tissues mean.
There's a tissue right here.
I know. There's a Kleenex tissue.
Oh, Kleenex tissue.
Yeah. We're talking about the tissues of your body. I always try to specify that. Because, growing up all my life, I never thought about, my muscle being a tissue. But it is. And your fat and your organs and every part of your body needs this calcium pushed into your tissues. And vitamin F or essential fatty acids will push that into your
Right. If
tissues.
you have a lot of deep ocean fish in your diet.
That's where you get it from.
Yeah. I saw one report once that indicated just a can of sardines a week provides you with enough vitamin D as well as vitamin F to do the balancing that you're just talking about. But, most people don't carry a pack of, sardines in their back pocket. Oh, man, I'm getting a muscle cramp. Give me one of those sardines. No, there's easier ways to do it.
Yeah, well, you need to eat a lot of food that has calcium in it. But you need to eat a lot of food that has the essential fatty acids. And one of the most important, one in this instance is L-lysine.
Yes.
And it's essential, meaning you have to get it from your diet. And you get that from fish.
Yes.
Wild-caught fish. You get it. That's the most important thing. And Jack was just reading to me an article where 2,000 people died in
Pakistan.
India and Pakistan.
2,500 in India in 2015 in the heat wave, and just a little bit later that year in Pakistan,
and
a much smaller country, 2,000 people died from heat stroke.
And they're the Indians I know, a lot of them are vegetarian, and and when we went to Egypt, our guide told us that people got meat if they were wealthy once a month.
Government workers.
Yeah, government workers. So they just don't get a lot of these essential fatty acids in their diet.
Amazing.
And they're out in the sun a lot.
Yes.
So, this is really important for you. And it's expensive. Our son is trying to go all carnivore, and he's off living on his own now, Rourke. We're so proud of him. He got it. He was like, I'm not coming home for the summer because he's been in college for a year.
Thank you.
We didn't tell him we wouldn't let you come home. But he was so great. He went out and got his roommates and a whole bunch of friends. And
their house.
They're renting a house.
He's got a car. And he's got a job, or 2 jobs, actually.
He's doing really well. And but he wants to go all carnivore because he's super into working out and building his body and all that stuff. But he says, Mom, it's too expensive. And it is, especially fish. Fish is very expensive. So we're like, well, we'll give you some supplements that will hopefully breach the gap, of when you can't eat as well as you should.
And so you might be taking essential amino acid supplements such as Protofood that'll get you the L-lysine. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that can trigger an outbreak are things like stress.
Yeah, stress, it can deplete the calcium in your body.
And then too much sun that we're talking about because it pulls the calcium out of your tissues back into the bloodstream, depleting tissue calcium. And so we're going to explain why that's so detrimental to the body.
Yeah. And so if you notice your body becoming overly warm when you're out in the sun, you need to
throw back about 6 to 8 Cataplex F tablets.
Chew them up.
Chew them up would be even better.
Yeah.
They don't taste like chocolate-covered peanuts, but they'll do a lot more for you than chocolate-covered peanuts.
Yeah, it's really important. It can be life-saving.
So let's get into a little more specifics here with the summer cold sores. Besides an alkaline condition, because usually there's an alkalinity that's taking place in the tissues.
Because you've been eating too much sugar.
And this virus, the herpes virus, thrives in an alkaline environment.
Did you hear that? Say that again.
The herpes virus thrives in an alkaline environment.
So all you people out there that think you need to alkalize your body or die,
be careful.
Yeah.
So, but cold sores really are a gift of Mother Nature because they tell you are low in calcium.
Yeah.
And we know that to be the case because if you get a canker inside your mouth or a cold sore on the outside and you take a calcium lactate tablet, lick it so it's wet and stick it to the cold sore on your lip or stick it to the inside of your cheek, wherever it is, because you get it wet, it'll be a little sticky. And watch what happens. Within seconds, you can feel it burning.
It's the most antiviral substance known to man.
Calcium is the most antiviral substance inside the human body. And so your body is using calcium to fight these things. There's something called the calcium wave. We talk about this in other podcasts. Something that was discovered at the Kellogg School of Ophthalmology at the University of Minnesota. And they created a super high-speed camera. It got in the bloodstream, and they could actually film what they called the calcium wave. And it's a part of the immune system that destroys bacteria and viruses. And so you want plenty of calcium in the tissues. The bloodstream is the bus. So calcium gets on the bus in the bloodstream. But what if the bus wouldn't let you off?
Ooh,
what if you just rode the bus and rode the bus and rode the bus?
And you're popping your vitamin D tablets all the way.
Yeah, because somebody told you need to take 50,000
grams.
International unit grams. That would be pounds. 50,000 international units of vitamin D a day.
It's crazy.
Your muscles are starting to hurt. Your back is aching. Your joints are hurting.
Your
because
bowel
your
movements.
blood is so full of calcium and not in the tissues. So what we need is vitamin F. Now, you won't hear much about vitamin F that much anymore because it's really the essential fatty acids. It was known as vitamin F a long time ago. The FDA doesn't really look at it that way, but several people still do because of the way it functions. And its function is to take the calcium off of the bus at the bus stop it's supposed to get off on and run into the local neighborhood, which could be muscles. It could be your eyes. It could be nerve endings.
It could be your heart.
It could definitely be your heart.
You don't want a cramp in your heart.
No. And so what happens in the tissues around the lip when you have a calcium deficient level in the tissues, the virus says, aha, they're not getting off the bus today. And they begin to proliferate. And they're very antagonistic to the skin. They form a blister, and then everybody who's had a cold sore knows how sore they can be, and they can take days to a week or 2 or 3 to get rid of them.
Yeah.
Now.
And usually it's right before your wedding.
Right. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So the point I'm making here is with adequate levels of absorbable calcium, and if you're eating green leafy vegetables, and you're eating pasture-raised meat. Pasture-raised meat's loaded with calcium because it has the
L-tyrosine in it too.
Yes, it does. And what has the cattle been eating all day long? It's
green
grass.
Yep.
Green leafy plants with calcium-rich soil. It'll be there.
So you have the calcium and the fatty acids when you eat animal foods.
That's right. So you put a calcium lactate capsule right on the sore blister. If you're going to go out in the sun, who isn't going to go out in the sun in the summertime? Make sure before you go out, you take a bunch of Cataplex F.
Yeah. Go out on the lake.
Now let's relate that to heat stroke.
Okay. What does calcium have to do with heat stroke, Jack?
Yeah, well, what is heat stroke? Well, the body just isn't cooling itself off. We know that technically it's also known as sunstroke. It's a severe heat starts building up in the body. An internal temperature of 104, and confusion will set in. In other words, someone's on the verge of heat stroke if you're talking to them and all of a sudden they're not making sense and they're kind of looking off in the distance. Then you want to open up your little bottle of Cataplex F you got in your pocket because this person didn't get it before you went out in the sun, and get them to chew up about a half a dozen or 8 of them. Obviously, get them out of the sun.
And a lot of these are kids that have been eating way too much sugar.
Oh, that even depletes your calcium stores even more.
So in one of our podcasts, maybe a couple years ago, I read this horrible story, which still sticks with me because it was horrible, with a young mother that went on this, religious trek. The Mormons in Utah go on this trek. It's kind of like going to Mecca, where they go back and they recreate the pioneers coming back from
the days of 47.
Yeah, from Missouri and over here. And a young mother, she had, I think, 2 or 3 kids, died of sunstroke.
She did.
She did.
Not the kids.
No, the kids weren't even there, I don't think. She was a counselor.
She was just helping out.
Yeah, she was one of the... Because it's the kids, it's the
and
young
you know
children,
that when she went down...
It's the teenagers that do this.
They pulled her into the shade.
Oh, yeah, they did.
They probably tried to give her water, administer normal heat stroke first aid.
Normal.
But it wasn't enough early enough.
And it is ridiculous that it's 2019 and the world does not know about essential fatty acids in preventing sunstroke, which is so deadly.
Yep.
And you die in minutes. And
you can.
And they should have Cataplex F, or they should require them to eat fish on the trek or before playing sports, or, I mean, to be just simpler to eat Cataplex F. Or,
and usually... I'm sorry.
No.
And usually with heat stroke and dehydration, there's electrolyte imbalance that's beginning to form. The potassium-sodium pump is sodium-potassium pump is out of balance. Potassium should be concentrated in the cells. Sodium is concentrated in the fluid around the cells, and that causes electrical energy. The I think it's dipolarity between the two causes electrical. Well, that's where a lot of your energy comes from, and when you get an imbalance of those. In the midst of a heat stroke, they'll start pumping water into you.
Which can be very dangerous.
It can be even, you want some water in a dehydrated person, but sometimes they'll flood more and more and more and more, and that can be even more dangerous than the heat stroke because it creates more electrolyte imbalance that can shut down the nervous system. So,
and then the other thing that I wanted to say was the vitamin D, excess vitamin D. Everybody's thinking they got to take so much vitamin D, and so they go play sports or they go, probably sports kids aren't eating a whole bunch of vitamin D supplements, thank goodness, but, these people that get out in the sun boating and everything else, and they're taking these horrible synthetic vitamin D. We have a podcast on the vitamin D. Hysteria and how deadly it is.
Yep.
And then they get out in the sun, and that's a recipe for disaster.
Yes.
Yeah, just disaster.
And pets have a harder time with heat than we do.
Oh, yeah, you read that. I didn't know that.
Dogs don't sweat. So
yeah.
So we always know about the dog in the car problem in the winter.
So throw in some Cataplex F in their food.
So, all right. And so just remember, and another problem is that when the body heat gets really elevated, it can disrupt the enzymes that regulate biochemical reactions that are absolutely essential for something that I never even knew existed till I went to college and learned about this, cellular respiration.
Your cells breathing.
The breathing of your cells, the materials, the life force, the oxygen, all the good stuff coming into the cell and all the bad stuff going out of the cell.
So this impacts the functioning of your major organs.
Oh, absolutely. And your major organs can fail in the midst of heat stroke.
Yeah.
So
really scary. Well,
we're not trying to talk so much about what do you do with somebody with heat stroke. What we're talking about is to prevent it.
Yeah, that's the best thing.
With plenty of Cataplex F ahead of time.
It's pretty scary.
And the only thing left is the restless legs.
Yeah. Whoa, what do you think is the solution for that?
Well, I bet the answer is in podcast number 21,
It is.
Restless Legs. But some people experience this more in the summer than in the winter because of the vitamin D. Again, now muscles will not contract without calcium. And the calcium pump, you have these two major protein structures, actin and myosin. Actin and myosin, I think it is. And these two come together and they are fibers of which muscle tissue is made from. And these two come together in the presence of calcium. The calcium leaves and they relax. And so calcium is involved with muscle contracting and muscles relaxing. Totally calcium dependent. Now, the calcium can't be in the bloodstream. It has to be in the muscles for this to take place.
So if it's stuck on that bus in the bloodstream,
that's right.
You're going to get restless legs.
You're going to get restless legs.
Yeah, and cramps.
Or if you are a 100-meter sprinter and right there at 92 meters, your hamstring goes into a massive cramp, or the score is 66 with 3 seconds left and you've got the ball and you're at the top of the paint and you're just a deadly shooter right there at the three-pointer, and you go to shoot it and both your calves go into a massive cramp and you fall to the floor and the ball goes rolling away. And
what about all those women that...
And you lose the game.
You lose the game. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Every time I see somebody fall down in sports, I know what's happening. The muscle went into a cramp. If they had started the event load it up with Cataplex F ahead of time. That will not happen. You want to use Spencer as an example?
Sure.
Football, August, Las Vegas.
Yeah. He would always take Cataplex F before he went out to play. And he didn't get heat stroke and he didn't get cramps. But we see football players go down for cramps and soccer players go down with cramps all the time.
Yeah.
But here's women. Women lose 3 days of their life every month when they get uterine cramps.
Oh.
Where'd you go?
Where'd you go? I didn't notice you missing last week.
Well, I'm through menopause, so I don't think that will happen.
Oh,
but yeah. So my daughters always carried Cataplex F in their purses all the time.
Yep.
Because it would relax those muscles in their uterus, the uterine muscle. It would relax, and then they were fine.
Exactly.
And it was even better if they prevented it, if they remembered to take the Cataplex F. Because how much fish do kids eat?
Well, unless they've got a real taste for it, not a whole lot.
And on top of it, it's expensive. It's much easier to buy
Good
macaroni
fish.
And cheese and, the cheap foods. But good fish is pretty expensive. So take Cataplex F. It's not expensive, which is wonderful to have that around for any kind of cramping, especially in the middle of the night. You wake up in the middle of the night, you got a cramp that you think you're going to die. They're so horrible. You have that Cataplex F next to your bed. You chew up, you dump the whole bottle in your mouth.
That's about it.
You chew it up as fast as you can, and within seconds, that's how fast it works. Within seconds, your cramp is gone.
Right. Now, one more example of the cramping. You've heard of rigor mortis.
That's a deadly thing.
Well, you have to be dead to have it.
I know.
Okay. It's where the body stiffens. The muscles, everything stiffens considerably sometime after death. And usually
that's how they can tell.
Forensic pathologists can tell the time of death to some degree. They do the temperature of the brain, the temperature of the liver, and how much rigor is present or not present. And what's happened is that when your brain dies, which it can do in 6 to 7 minutes after oxygen's cut off, the rest of your body is still alive. Your organs are alive. Your muscles are alive. Your muscles can go on living another 2, 3, 4 hours.
Yeah, you were telling me if you take the nucleus out of a cell, the cell can live for 2 months.
Oh, yeah. There are cells in the body. If you
Who
take
knew?
the nucleus out of the cell, how can the cell go on? We have to do a podcast on that. Well, it's in epigenetics.
Okay.
It's the cell wall that controls the cell, not the nucleus. The nucleus just creates proteins in the cell, and it creates for division, mitosis, the splitting of the cell into another cell.
Do you see how fun it is to live with Jack? Comes up with these things.
Yeah.
Who knew that the nucleus didn't?
It's just like the other day. You came up, just slinking up to me and tickling my neck and kissing my cheek and said, "Hey, buddy." And I said, "Do you understand the mitotic division of a rhesus monkey and how close it is to the human?" And she just flipped me in the nose with her fingers and walked off. Started cleaning
But so
the
now
kitchen.
you guys all know that
So-
a cell can live without the nucleus.
Right. So rigor mortis.
Okay, back to that.
The pump is still going on inside the body, even though your brain is dead. You're biologically dead. But like I said, the body doesn't all die at once. Parts of it dies.
We did a podcast on that. How do we die?
When the calcium pump is no longer working, that's when the muscles start to stiffen up and harden. The actin and the myosin.
How long does that
can't
take?
relax.
Do you remember?
For that to happen? Body temperature has the circumstances of death, the temperature around the death, age, hydration, other things have an effect on that. But eventually, there is some standard to it. But eventually, the protein fibers begin to break down because they're dead now. And so the body becomes loose and movable again.
Yeah, you don't
So
keep
that's
it
where
forever.
rigor mortis. But the key thing is it's the calcium that's at the middle of rigor mortis. Well, calcium is at the middle of muscles contracting and relaxing when you're alive. So the number one thing we do for people with restless legs, especially at night, is to make sure that they get probably a good full scoop of calcium lactate powder available on the website.
And it also relaxes you and calms
not
you
all
down.
calcium's the same.
It's like a warm glass of milk. They always say, "Oh, go get a warm glass of milk."
Oh, yeah.
That's what the calcium lactate, and you get the powder, and it's just really bioavailable, much better than any other calcium out there on the market.
Yes.
And it just relaxes you.
Yeah, about half an hour to an hour before you go to bed. And then Cataplex F, I'd take a good 8 of those before you go to sleep and watch what happens.
Yeah. Well, the national show you do, Doug Steffen, he says that's the best product he's ever used.
That we've ever recommended.
With Catablix F.
Because he takes it every night before bed and he has no more restless legs.
Yeah.
All right, so let's recap this.
Okay, so we have on our website protocols for cold sores, and I'll just go over them really quickly because maybe some of you won't be able to get there and look at this. But the number one thing that we haven't even talked about is Cal-Ammo.
Well, that's calcium and ammonium chloride. Mm-hmm. So there's a good source of calcium right there.
Which acidifies the body, so where viruses can't survive and live in that. And what we recommend is the Cal-Ammo, and we did a big thing on this with interstitial cystitis too, our last podcast, but take 6 immediately on the emergence of a cold sore, and then take 2 every hour until the pain's gone.
Yes.
Okay? You can keep doing this, but just take it till the pain's gone. And then you can take Protofood, which has that amino acid in it that we said was so important, the L-lysine.
Yes.
In fighting colds and sores, and it's essential. You have to get it from your diet. So we recommend you take 6 Cal-Ammos right off the bat, and then a Protofood, and then
just 1 a day for the Protofood.
Yeah, just 1. You don't need tons of that. So you can buy a bottle. It can last you a whole year. It's wonderful stuff. And then Cataplex F, which of course we've talked about, that pushes the calcium into your tissues. And take it before you go out in the sun also. But if you can take it even after you're starting to feel really sick to your stomach, you know something's going on, shove those Cataplex F tablets down their mouth and tell them to chew. Sorry. And then calcium lactate, take 3 tablets every 3 hours, and then 3 at night, right before you go to bed, for prevention.
This is preventing for cold sores.
For cold sores.
Yeah. Now, do they have to take 3 tablets every 3 hours all the time?
No, just when they have an emergence.
When they can feel that emergence taking place.
They get an emergence of a cold sore, yeah. And then we talked about putting the calcium tablet right on the cold sore or right inside the mouth, and that will really help get rid of it sooner. And then Chondroplex, just for immune building support, we recommend that. Echinacea Premium, again, for immune building support. And then another really cool herb called St. John's wort, which helps break through the envelope on viruses. And there's some viruses that are called envelope viruses.
Yes.
And St. John's wort is the only herb that can bust through that. Antibiotics can't bust through it. But this can, St. John's wort. So you can also put a drop or 2 right on the cold sore.
Yeah.
And do that a couple times a day. But I would recommend either doing the liquid, it tastes pretty bad, or 4 tablets a day. But that's all in our podcast, all in our protocol on our website. So you go to our website, there's 3 tabs across, 3 fields across the top that you can search in. The left one is for protocols. Just type in cold sores. And sitting right there. There's some other things that can help. Calendula is a liquid that is a MediHerb product. You can put drops of that on the cold sore. There's also Chase Tree. If the cold sores are cyclical with your menstruation, every time you have your period, you get a cold sore. Then you want to take Chase Tree at night. And you just take a little bit at night. It also helps you sleep. It helps with insomnia. And it helps with acne. So what's bad about that? Astragalus is a really good immune-supporting herb. You can also get lemon balm essential oil.
You put that
sticks.
right on the lips.
Yeah, that helps. That's real acidic too. Certain mushrooms really help with cold sore. Skullcap tea helps, and most importantly, lay off the sugar when you're spending times outdoors. And what do? We go on picnics. We bring cake and donuts.
We have barbecued ribs, and I don't know any decent barbecue sauce that's not half sugar.
I know. So, do the best you can, but really...
Well, sugar stuns the immune response.
Yeah.
It stuns the immune system.
For up to 3 days sometimes. Yep. But, try to mitigate that with some good supplementation. Okay. And you go ahead with restless legs.
Well, restless legs, we talked about. I mentioned a few minutes ago, Cataplex F, about 6 before bed. Calcium lactate, 6 before bed, but about an hour before the F. You don't want anything in the stomach with the F. You want it by itself. Cod liver oil for the D.
Vitamin D and vitamin A.
Because you need the D to make sure you absorb the calcium in the gut to get to the blood, and the F takes it from the blood to the muscles.
What a recipe.
Yep.
And then?
Some magnesium lactate.
Which relaxes.
Yeah, which helps to relax as well. Now, if your sugar hypoglycemic or if there's some sugar thing going on in your life, you may want to add Cataplex GTF.
Glucose tolerance factor, yep.
Some
It's got some
chlorophyll,
chromium in it.
some Cyruto Plus, and some Cramplex.
Yeah, and my daughters took Cramplex too, also on their periods. So,
But it's not just for menstrual cramps.
no, it's for
all kinds of
of cramps, and that's why we have it on Restless Legs. You don't have to get that, but that's a really good one too. So, anyway, and then for the other one, which was
The heat stroke, we talked about that. Just before you're going to go do anything that's outside and there's going to be heat, make sure your calcium and vitamin D levels are high. And then make sure you take a lot of Cataplex F before you get out there. Or sit there and eat, a nice 16-ounce portion of king salmon from deep ocean sources. But the easiest thing to do is just have a bottle of Cataplex F laying around.
So go to forbiddendoctor.com and take our free symptom survey and read about our 2 revolutionary products, Ageless Thyroid and Long Life Energy Enzymes, because there's no other products like this in the world.
Or go to agelessthyroid.com and read about a product that can help contribute to melting breast lumps and supporting the hormonal system.
That's my product. I made that for myself.
Yes,
it's
did.
wonderful. So these statements made in this podcast and specific products have not been evaluated by the United States Food and Drug Administration and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. All information provided or any information contained on or in any product label or packaging or this podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for advice from your physician or other healthcare professionals.
Thank you for listening to this forbidden information in our Forbidden Podcast.
This was short. This is great.
Join us next time for another in-depth discussion of forbidden knowledge.
In-depth.
In-depth. In-depth.
And we will see you then.
See you then.
Thank you for listening to the Forbidden Doctor Podcast. If you are curious about long life energy enzymes or ageless thyroid, you can purchase them without a membership from our website at forbiddendoctor.com or get our enzyme formula from amazon.com by searching the full term Long Life Energy Enzymes. Don't forget to take our obligation-free symptom survey to get a free personalized supplement protocol recommended for you by Dr. Jack, Mary, or one of our qualified nutritionists. Take the survey, get a call from our nutritionist to create a protocol and a patient login, then use that login to see your own personal protocol along with any favorites you've saved from our symptom library. Remember, our website and our clinic are here for you always.